So, what is narration? Narration tells a story by presenting events in an orderly, logical sequence. Narration can be the dominant pattern in many kinds of writing. Also, you will use narration in speech if you're telling somebody a story or recounting an event. Histories, biographies, autobiographies, all of these things follow a narrative form. Narration tends to be the dominant pattern in many works of fiction, journals, blogs, poetry, any of those sorts of things. Also, narration, you see it in folk and fairy tales and many news reports. So, narration is something that we use quite often. Generally, narration tells of events in an orderly, logical sequence. However, that's not always true, and we'll see that as we go a little deeper into this chapter. All right, narration is not only for stories, and we just talked about that. There are histories, biographies, autobiographies, all of those sorts of things. So we're in any form of our writing or any method, mode, whatever of writing we do, we're going to end up using an element of narration. Now, when we plan a narrative, in college, writing a narrative essay is more likely to present as a sequence of events for the purpose of supporting a particular statement. Generally, the purpose of our narrative is to just recount an event or create a particular mood or impression. However, when we do college writing, it seems to present itself as more of a mode for supporting a thesis statement. The first thing you need to do when using narration is to make sure that you include enough detail. Narratives, like other types of writing, need to include rich, specific details if they are to be convincing. You want your audience to believe what you are telling them. Also, this will ensure that the writer creates a clear picture for the reader. Next, you're going to want to think about varying your sentence structure. Generally, if a narrative presents a long series of events, all the sentences can begin to sound alike. If you, and then we went to the mall, and then we bought a pair of shoes, and then I got an ice cream cone, and then we walked to the car. If you keep using that sort of language, you're going to lose people and they're not going to want to read your story. They're going to stop. So you need to mix it up with words like meanwhile. Next, I began to think in the fall, sort of switch it up a little bit, let time progress, but use a variety of words in order to do that. Maintain a clear narrative order. Now, generally, it's easiest to begin at the beginning. However, one can begin at the middle, or the turning point, or the climax, and then go back to the beginning and then finish the story. Or one can simply begin at the end. A lot of the movies that we see today are like that. You'll see the end scene. You'll see like somebody standing over a grave. And then they'll be like, oh, I knew them so well and I loved them so much and now they're gone. And then you'll hear, but let me start from the beginning. And so then your flashback. Your flashback is a very effective technique to utilize in a narrative, especially if you are going to begin at the end. So that's one sort of element of the chronological order that you can experiment with. Now, a narration can either be subjective or objective. An objective narration is written in the third person, and it attempts to provide a neutral explanation of events. Again, objective is like your news reporter, somebody who just simply tells you the facts. Or you can tell a narrative in a subjective manner, and this is written in first person, and it offers a personal impression of events. So you get a more personalized, I saw the tragedy occur and it broke my heart. So you get more of a feeling with a subjective first-person writer. Verb tense. You need to watch verb tense. And as I've graded a lot of your papers, verb tense is something that I've written a lot. I've marked a lot for. You must make sure that you adapt your verb tense in a narrative. you need to keep it consistent and accurate so that your reader can follow the sequence of events. You are inevitably going to have to shift verb tense, but you really should try to avoid unwarranted shifts in verb tense because they tend to make your narrative confusing. Transitions. Connecting words or phrases help link events in time, enabling your narratives to flow smoothly. So, little transitional words that denote the marking, or rather denote the passage of time. You have first, second, next, then, later, at the same time, meanwhile. Use these transitions in your narrative. It will help add variety to your story. Now, you have a narrative assignment where you're going to tell me a story. So think about some of these things that we have covered in this Google Doc. And like I said again, this is chapter 6 in your patterns text, narration, and it is page 97 through 111. And there are, after 111 on page 114 starts the Juno Diaz, which we are going to read. And then after that is 38, who saw murder and didn't call the police. And we're going to read that as well. So hopefully you have enjoyed this Google Doc and my fairy tale theme. And we will see you next time.